I'm Clint Walker, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Clint. I'm Randy Hansen. In today's world news headlines, multiple bombing kills 120 in Pakistan. And 11 Pakistani civilians killed in escalating U.S. drone strikes since January 1st. And Karzai and U.S. discuss plans for CIA bases. An Obama administration prepares for rejection of assault weapons ban with alternate proposals. And the NRA disappointed with Biden for agenda to attack the Second Amendment. And Colorado governor proposes universal background checks for gun sales. And student critically wounded in shooting at California school. An Aurora shooting suspect ordered to stand trial. And Consumer Bureau unveils new rules to prevent high-risk mortgages. And Obama nominates Chief of Staff, ex-city exec Jack Lew for Treasury. And pastor withdraws from Obama inauguration over anti-LGBTQ views. And a study says half the world's food is going to waste. And U.S. declares natural disaster areas in drought-stricken Midwest. And thousands rally for Chavez on delayed inauguration day. And Walmart CEO was told of Mexican bribes, emails say. And Seattle high school teachers votes to refuse standardized MAP test. And Oscar nods include docs on military sexual assault and AIDS activism and Palestinian nonviolent protest. Grass Valley News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television, division of Rural Counties Television Network, whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, at least 120 people were killed in Pakistan Thursday in a series of bombing attacks, mostly targeted Shiite Muslims and government soldiers. 86 deaths came in twin bombing in the southern city of Quetta, with scores dying in an initial blast followed by more deaths when a car bomb struck police and rescuers who arrived at the scene. The banned Sunni group Lashkar-e-Jhangvi claims responsibility for the attack, prompting fears of worsening sectarian violence in Pakistan after more than 400 deaths in 2012. Thursday's bombings came hours after at least 6 people were killed in the 7th publicly known U.S. drone strikes inside Pakistan in less than 2 weeks. The Obama administration has begun in 2013 with a flurry of Pakistan strikes, raising speculation it is accelerating the bombings before its capacity to carry them out is diminished with the planning withdrawal from Afghanistan by the end of next year. According to the tally, the website Long War Journal, U.S. drones have already killed as many as 11 civilians and 30 suspected militants in the first 10 days of the year. If confirmed, that would mean a death ratio of more than 1 civilian for every 3 suspect militants. Also would already exceed the official civilian death toll for 2012, though the number is likely too small because U.S. policy deems all adult males as militants unless contrary evidence emerges after their deaths. According to the Washington Post, the future stationing of CIA bases that launched the drone strikes will be among the topics discussed at the White House and the Afghan President Hamid Karzai during Karzai's current visit to Washington. The Obama administration has reportedly set its expectations low for passage of a new assault weapons ban in Congress, despite a change in national consciousness in the aftermath of last month's Newtown shooting massacre. The New York Times is reporting the White House has decided it will be exceedingly difficult for the ban to make it to the President Obama's desk, leading administration aides to develop other gun controls rules that could draw bipartisan support. The alternatives include universal background checks and more government search for gun violence. The White House is also reportedly considering a $50 million effort to fund the placement of hundreds of police officers and new surveillance equipment in public schools, a move that would resemble the National Rifle Association's call for armed guards in every school. News of possible gun regulation proposals comes as Vice President Joe Biden hosted gun industry representatives at the White House on Thursday as part of an ongoing task force on U.S. gun violence. In his remarks, Biden vowed to issue his recommendations to President Obama next week. And he said, "With my colleagues, I am putting together a series of recommendations for the President that he will take a look at. There's a real, very tight window to do this. I committed to him I'd have these recommendations to him by Tuesday. There is a surprisingly recurrence of suggestions that we are a universal background check, not just close gun loopholes, but total universal background checks, including private sales." Meaning included officials from the NRA who quickly attacked Biden's task force in a statement shortly after. The NRA said, "We were disappointed in how little this meeting had to do with keeping our children safe and how much it had to do with the agenda to attack the Second Amendment." A number of states have vowed to tackle gun violence on their own following the Newtown massacre. In Colorado, Democratic Governor John Hickenlooper proposed Thursday to require universal background checks on all state gun sales. Hickenlooper's plan came one day after New York Governor Andrew Cuomo called for tightening the state assault weapons ban and limited high-capacity magazines. Another school shooting occurred on Thursday, this time in rural California. A 16-year-old student armed with a shotgun walked into a high school and fired at a fellow student, leaving the victim seriously wounded. The shooter fired at another student but missed his target. Kern County Sheriff Donnie Youngblood said he was carrying multiple rounds of shotgun ammunition. And he said there was an active shooter that didn't show up for school this morning for the first period. He then interrupted the class halfway through it, armed with a shotgun. He fired the first round, striking another student. The student is in hospital, 16-year-old, who is critical condition but stable at this point. He then tried to engage a second student that he named and tried to shoot him and missed. The teacher at that point was trying to get the students out of the classroom and engaged the shooter, who had numerous rounds of shotgun shells and 12-gauge shotgun, numerous rounds in his pocket. He engaged the student or the suspect in conversation. According to fellow students, the shooter had previously been bullied by other students and had been expelled after it was discovered he kept a hit list of people he wanted to target. In Colorado, a judge has ordered the shooting suspect James Holmes to stand trial for killing 12 people and wounding dozens more in the Aurora movie theater in July. Holmes is set to appear in court, but is unlikely to issue a plea. Attorneys say he is suffering from an unspecified mental illness. Evidence emerged in the pretrial hearing this week that Holmes took pictures of himself posing with his firearms before the attack took place. Outside the courtroom, relatives of two Aurora shooting victims spoke out about seeing Holmes in person and said, Jessica Watts said, "It was very emotional for a lot of us, and I think this whole time he's been detached. He looked very disheveled in court, and he looked very disinterested." Sam Sadani said, "Trash. I mean, honestly, you sit there, you look at a person, and then you see there is no more humanity left anymore. You don't look at him as a person. You really don't. I took a glimpse of him there. I don't feel hate or anger towards him. I just don't feel anything towards him." The federal government has unveiled a new restriction on high-risk home loans that pushed millions into foreclosure and helped spark the financial crisis. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau announced new rules Thursday forbidding lenders from issuing mortgages to those ill-positioned to repay the loan and preventing inducements for borrowers to take in crushing debt. In a statement, the Bureau's director, Richard Cordray, said, to put it simply, lenders should not set up consumers to fail. President Obama has nominated another former Wall Street executive to become Treasury Secretary, picking his own Chief of Staff, Jack Lew, to replace Timothy Geithner. Obama unveiled Lew's nomination in the White House on Thursday. He said, "When history books are written, Tim Geithner is going to go down as one of our finest secretaries in the Treasury." Jack has my complete trust. I know I'm not alone in that. In the words of one former senator, having Lew in your team is equivalent as a coach of having a lecture of putting somebody in almost any position and knowing he will do well. I could not agree more, so I hope Senate will confirm him as quickly as possible. Liu was an executive Citigroup 2006 to 2008 at the time of financial crisis and a longtime proponent of deregulating Wall Street. The pastor selected to deliver the benediction President Obama's inauguration later this month was withdrawn following an uproar over the anti-LGBTQ comments he made in the 1990s. Reverend Lou Giglio had come under opposition after it was revealed he called on Christians to fight what he called the LGBTQ movement's aggressive agenda. In a statement, Obama's presidential inauguration committee said it was unaware of Giglio's prior stance at the time he was selected. So much for vetting. A new study has found that half of all food worldwide is going to waste. Britain's Institution of Mechanical Engineers say at least 1.2 billion of the 4 billion tons of food produced each year is thrown out due to problems with harvesting, transporting, storage, as well as wasteful behavior of sellers and consumers. Report calls for food wastage, a tragedy that cannot continue if we are to succeed in the challenge of sustainable meeting our food demands. Brendan Cox, a group that Save the Children, said soaring food costs threatens to cause more needless deaths, and said, what we're saying today is there is a new normal of high food prices. Just in the last year, we've seen the wheat and maize increase by 25%, and that's having a real impact on children's lives. We already know that around 3 million children are dying each year as a result of malnutrition. We think food price crisis this year, but could happen next year, could make the situation much worse. Fears of a spike in food prices have grown after a long-standing drought prompted the Obama administration to declare a natural disaster in a large part of the Midwest. Conditions in the 4 main wheat-producing states, Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, and Texas, continue to be the worst on record. The drought has carried over from what was the hottest year in record in the United States. And thousands of people rallied in Venezuela on Thursday to mark that would have been swearing in of alien President Hugo Chavez. Inauguration has been delayed while Chavez remains in Cuba following his 4th surgery for cancer. Venezuelan Vice President Nicolas Maduro addressed Chavez supporters. That's him pictured in this picture coming up. And he said 30 days have passed since the operation and Commander Hugo Chavez. Very important for a moment. As you know, he is fighting a battle, and we tell him here, Commander, easy, keep up your battle, because here you have a Bolivarian government and a revolutionary people. While the Venezuela Supreme Court has ruled Chavez is still president despite missing his swearing in, the opposition is calling for a caretaker government and a new election. 2 Democratic congressmen were claiming Walmart CEO Mike Duke was told of bribery allegations surrounding the retail giant's expansion in Mexico in early 2005. Emails disclosed by Representative Henry Waxman of California and Representative Elijah Cumming of Maryland show Walmart International General Counsel emailed Duke and other executives about the specific bribes in the opening number of stores in November 2005, contradicting Walmart's claim his top officials were unaware. In a letter to Duke, the congressman writes, it would be a serious matter if the CEO is one of our nation's largest companies, failed to address allegations of a bribery scheme. Justice Department is currently investigating whether Walmart violated the Foreign Corrupt Practice Act, which makes it a crime for American corporations to bribe foreign officials. The entire faculty of a Seattle area high school has voted to refuse giving students a standardized test used in teacher evaluation, in a unanimous decision that is likely the first of its kind nationwide. Teachers at Garfield High School said the MAP tests are a waste of time, money, and resources, and then unfairly used to grade their performance. Jesse Hagapian said, today isn't just about testing in general, it's about particularly flawed tests. And Kip McCormick said, and I see no use for it at all, and so I'm not going to do it. Writing on her website, former Assistant Secretary of Education Diana Ravitch said the vote could have nationwide ramifications for showing teachers there is strength and unity that they do not have to endure unethical demands with passivity and resignation. And nominations for the 85th Academy Awards were unveiled on Thursday. The documentary categories included 3 films featured on Democracy Now! Throughout the past year: The Invisible War, on sexual assault in the U.S. military, How to Survive a Plague, on a historic effort at the early AIDS movement, and 5 Broken Cameras, on a nonviolent struggle of Palestinians against Israel's separation wall in the occupied West Bank. And that's it for the World News today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right. It's us. GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
No one needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. John is an American. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter. Pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County Law Enforcement, Grass Valley Police Department on Thursday, 9:45 a.m. A caller from 800 block of Idaho, Maryland Road reported that someone dumped a dead animal into a recycling bin. 9:50 a.m. A caller from an unknown address reported a man injecting drugs and refusing to leave an area. No drugs were found, and the man was advised against trespassing. At 10:58 a.m., a woman from East Main Street and Dorsey Drive reported losing her computer from the roof of her vehicle. It was in a black case with a phone charger, cigarettes, and tequila. 11:38 a.m., a caller from business 100 block at Idaho, Maryland Road reported a man with stolen property. He was arrested on a warrant. At 1:44 p.m., a woman from 600 block of Butler Street reported theft of mail from a mailbox. At 2:32 p.m., a caller from 100 block of West McKnight Way reported a woman had shoplifted and tried to flee. At 4:08 p.m., a man from 200 block of Sutton Way reported his son was very drunk and might have beaten someone up. And Friday, 1:09 a.m., a caller from 200 block of Dorsey Drive reported a man banging on a door who was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public and having a warrant. And 1:17 a.m., a caller from 100 block of Mill Street reported vandalism. There was writing on the windows that will wash off. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Thursday, 9:40 a.m. A woman from 13,000 block of Thistle Loop reported being charged again by a neighboring hood dog. At 11:32 a.m., a caller from 16,000 block of Oscar Drive reported theft of glasses from a doctor's office. At 6:02 p.m., a woman from Torrey Pines Drive in Lakeshore North reported a man on a golf cart became very aggressive and hit her. He was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. At 6:45 p.m., a man from Judith Court reported a man was having a temper tantrum, punching holes in a residence and calling him a druggie. Friday, 12:38 a.m., a man from 18,000 block of Bellevue Lane reported a large bull with its horn stuck in a piece of wood. Well, couldn't find wood, so I thought it was interesting. Nevada City Police Department on Thursday. 2:25 p.m., a caller from Commercial Street reported multiple transients loitering on the boardwalk and making people uncomfortable. They were gone when officers arrived. And now that's it for the blotter. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us. GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got them. You like international style lunches? They got them. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. In today's local news headlines, Highway Patrol commemorates Amber Alert Awareness Day, and Fedora Bandit pleads guilty to armed bank robberies and a lawsuit. In a story, California is joining together with states across the country to recognize the National Amber Alert Awareness Day on Sunday. The occasion is at a time to acknowledge the collaborative efforts and successes of the Amber Alert program in assisting and recovering of abducted children. In California, more than 200 Amber Alerts have been issued since the inception of the program in the summer of 2002. Those vital notifications have resulted in a safe recovery of more than 240 children. California Highway Patrol serves as a statewide coordinator for the Amber Alert program and other emergency response activities associated with child abduction. When it comes to swift, safe recovery of child, Amber Alert have proven time and time again to be a lifesaver, said CHP Commissioner Joe Farrell. The Amber Alert program was created in 1996 after 9-year-old Amber Hagerman of Texas was abducted and later found murdered. The program evolved from a local network of radio broadcasters to include programs in all 50 states. During the past decade, California's Amber Alert notification network has continued to grow. In addition to the activation of the emergency alert system by the National Weather Service, there are now numerous ways to reach the public with critical information about a child's abduction. A 74-year-old man, dubbed the Fedora Bandit, by law enforcement agents, pleaded guilty in federal court in Sacramento to 3 counts of armed bank robbery. David Griffith Osborne, formerly of Carson City, pleaded guilty to robbing the American River Bank, 9750 Business Park Drive in Rancho Cordova, on June 3, 2010, as well as the Bank of the West in Gridley on April 26, 2010, and Chase Bank in Paradise on June 29, 2010, according to Federal Department of Justice news release. Osborne also admitted to 4 other bank robberies: Bank of the West branches in Grass Valley, December 22, 2009, March 31, 2010, South Lake Tahoe, February 18, 2010, and Kings Beach, March 9, 2010. He would be required to pay restitution for all 7 robberies. In each of the robberies, Osborne wore a hat, sunglasses, and fake mustache and a goatee. He demanded money while brandishing a firearm. He was identified in surveillance images, and after the June 29, 2010 robbery in Paradise Bank, his DNA was recovered from an abandoned bicycle that he used as a getaway vehicle, authorities said. Law enforcement personnel matched the DNA to Osborne, who confessed to the 7 armed robberies and also admitted to robbing the Bank of the West, 2976 North Carson Street in Carson City. Osborne is to be sentenced March 29th by U.S. District Judge Garland E. Burrow, Jr. The case resulted from an investigation by the FBI with assistance of the Grass Valley, South Lake Tahoe, Gridley, and Paradise Police Departments, Placer County and Sacramento County's Sheriff's Departments, and the Carson City Sheriff's Office. The South Yuba River Citizens League, or the Circle, in January 11 filed a complaint to federal court against the National Marine Fisheries Service, the NMFS, seeking to reverse a recent decision to weaken Endangered Species Act protections for 3 species of Yuba River fish: the spring run chinook, salmon, steelhead, and green sturgeon. Circle's complaint asserts that the NMFS improperly extended critical deadlines for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to implement numerous measures to protect these 3 protected fish species given their extremely precarious status. The NMFS originally imposed the protection measures in a formal decision called the Biological Opinion, issued in February 2012 in a response to lawsuits filed by Circle and Friends of the River in 2006. Measures include a study of means to secure anadromous fish passages past 2 dams located on the Yuba River, Englebright, and Daguerre Point dams. In a letter, the Army Corps, dated November 27, 2012, NMFS granted the Army Corps more than 3-year extensions to meet their deadlines, and actually allows the Army Corps to never implement the protective measures if the Army Corps does not secure a specific congressional appropriation. NMFS unilateral extension of key deadlines directly contradicts their detailed opinions issued just last February that the Yuba salmon are in jeopardy of extinction unless action is taken, said Caleb Dardick of Circle. Circle is asking the court to order NMFS to rescind its letter and reinstate the former deadlines. On January 9, 2013, Yuba County Water Agency also filed a related federal court action against NMFS, challenging the biological opinion. Army Corps also objects to the biological opinion, has requested NMFS to weaken it. In its newly filed lawsuit, Circle intends to defend the biological opinion against the YCWA, and the Army Corps attempts to weaken its key protections. Although the Army Corps has claimed that it lacks the means and the authority to implement the biological opinion and its original deadlines, the biological opinion explains how existing laws and regulations give the Corps the necessary authority, and other internal documents point to resources the Army Corps can tap. Christopher Sproul of the Environmental Advocates Lead Counsel for Circle said. NMFS extends the biological opinion deadlines without considering the impacts on ESA-protected fish species, which makes the action contrary to law. NMFS has expressly recognized the Yuba River provides one of the best opportunities in the state to restoring salmon and steelhead. Spring run Chinook salmon are once plentiful in the Central Valley, with over 600,000 returning to their natal streams each year, but the construction of impassable dams in the 20th century reduced the historic spawning habitat available to the species by 95%, resulting in substantial population decline. In 2011, fewer than 5,000 spring Chinook returned to the Central Valley, a reduction of 99% from the historical levels. Removing barriers through upstream fish passage is urgently needed to halt this continuing slide towards extinction. The biological opinion finds that the Army Corps, Daguerre Point, and Englebright Dam have contributed to the population decline over the three species, due mainly to the fact that the dams blocking the fish from migrating upstream to adequate spawning habitat. Forced to spawn in limited habitat below Englebright Dam, salmon currently suffer from competition for scarce spawning space, disruption of gravel spawning nests, and interbreeding with hatchery strays and other runs. This is diminishing the genetic vigor, resulting in weaker fish stocks.